See, me, I'm just a firm believer in divine timing, and I affirm that every day. So, what's for me is already working for me. I ain't gotta chase that. I ain't gotta rush that. It's already mine. I'm on my own timeline.
You can't rush my greatness. I've been elevating daily on a mission for my people. All the love I've been receiving. Oh, got me oh so dedicated to uplift the world's vibration. This is affirmation of alignment with the highest. This the road less traveled. You don't have a say so in how I move. You don't know my battles. Can't be on my boat with no paddle. How you talking down on the captain, but moving like cattle? Niggas try to play me, but that shit is funny. Get to know the new me. I've been getting money. I've been changing lives now. Conquer my depression, leveled up, and I'm alright now.
Peace to the gods and goddesses, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of Cosmic Konnections, where the ethereal meets the tangible, mysteries unravel, and souls connect. I'm super excited. I'm your co-host, Kaii, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to my co-host, Crandell, allow himself to introduce himself, as well as our special guest that we have for tonight.
I love it when you throw me the alley oops. But tonight we welcome in a special guest, a shaman, master teacher, psychological alchemist, a spiritual guide whose work bridges the seen and unseen. She shares deep wisdom, ritual practices, and transformational guidance to help people reclaim their power, heal, and attune to higher heights and frequencies. Tonight we stepping into her world. We reaching the practices that sustain her insights, that inspire her teachings, and illuminate the path forward for all of those who may see or don't see. So I'd like to welcome our guest, Akiyla McQueen.
Hey,
Peace.
I like to do something special for our guests because I always do my due diligence. So I always like to write something special for my guests to introduce them the right way. But peace to you, goddess.
grateful. I'm so grateful. I was like, where you got that? I like that. Thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here. Peace to the gods and goddesses that are tuning in this moment. I appreciate your time, and it's the most valuable thing that you could give. So I'm excited to see what the conversation takes us.
Yes, actually, let's go ahead and start. So I think that the perfect way to start is tell us about your journey, where you began, and how you kind of molded yourself into who you are today. What was that like for you?
Oh, the journey. It's like, where do you begin? So I typically say, like, when I was 18, I started to really shift my perspective on a lot of stuff, but it really started when I was younger. I just didn't have all the tools, resources, and understanding to see why certain things was happening in the way that it did. So when I was little, ever since I can remember, I was a huge dreamer and having visions, and I would learn about or know about things prior to them happening. Some of the major things that I remember having as a kid was knowing that Aaliyah was going to pass, or that the 9/11, seeing airplanes hit the Twin Towers in my dream, and then seeing it happen and being like, wait, I dreamt about that.
Wow.
But not having context as to why I would be doing that. And I grew up in a household where up until maybe I was like 7 years old, we practiced Islam. And then after that, we were a non-religious household. My mother is a Pan-Africanist, a revolutionary, really believes in liberation of our people. And so I was raised already knowing who I am as a melanated being. I didn't have too much indoctrination that I had to like deprogram or uncover, but she was also like the black sheep of the family in a sense. One of my aunts also, but mostly her because she also didn't have a religion anymore. And we were vegan, and I like to say she was atheist. She'd be like, don't be telling people I'm atheist. I'm like, but you be like, you don't believe in God. That's pretty much like what atheist is. You know, she'd be like, I believe in science. I'm like, all right. So my mom believed in science, and she didn't really believe in the heebie-jeebie, that's what she would call it, or the sky daddy or anything like that. So I had this perception, you know, being young, that religious people believed in something that was imaginary. But I also had this feeling though inside of me that felt like it. I was always curious, you know. It's like there was like a pull of like spirit within me, of like, but why do I like want to know what God is, you know?
Right.
And then my aunt and my eldest cousin, spent a lot of time with them, but they are in Ifa. And at the time, though, they were in Shango Baptist, which my family's from Trinidad. And in Shango Baptist, it's like Trinidadians' version of Ifa. You know, it's kind of mixed with Christianity, but also doing like the misas and different things like that. And so I got to see some of those rituals. I got to see ancestral altars. I got to see people get mounted and possessed and, you know, take on different deities, entities, spirits, and stuff like that at a very young age. And my mom would be telling me, ain't none of that's real. But as I'm observing it, I'm like, but something feels real about it. And I was always curious as to, well, like, why are you putting food on the altar? Why are you praying at this place? Like, what is all these little spaces throughout the home? You know, and I'm like 8, you know, just very curious about all of that. So maybe by the time I'm like a teenager, my mom said that when I reach a certain age, I will decide what my spirituality was going to be. And I think that's one of the most profound things my mom ever said to me, because she wasn't trying to impose her beliefs. But she was very strong on don't be Christian. But so when I got to
like, this not that one.
Not that one.
Anything but that. No.
So when I went to college, this was me getting a chance to get away from my environment. My mom moved us to Miami like my last year and a half of high school. And I got into a relationship with somebody that completely kind of stripped the mask that I was holding at the time. And I was recognizing that I didn't really have what I used to have around me that kept me very anchored. I was always that person that was like strong-minded, independent, help out all my family, like people on my cousins or whatever, they're gonna look to me to decide like how we gonna move, what we gonna do, and look out for them. And you know, but of course always taking in consideration for everybody. So it was just very different though to move to Miami where I didn't have anybody. And I kind of like was trying to figure out who I was outside of the parameters I was used to. And so I felt like that's what kind of like drew me to that relationship. And as I got into that relationship, long story short, it was very verbally dysfunctional, physically disruptive. And I lost a lot of parts of myself that I once held prior to that relationship. And it was a lot of things about me. Like I'm originally from Brooklyn, y'all. So I'm a city girl. I'm moving down to Miami. That to me is country because I'm like New York is like drastically different than Miami. And it was like, you can't wear your sneakers anymore. You can't listen to this type of music. Like all different things was shifting. And before I knew it, I was like changing. And once I went to college, that was like my out from the relationship. It was my ability to be like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And even though there was different threats coming at me and all of that, I still stood firm on not being in that relationship. But then that left me with, well, who am I? I don't even really feel connected to Brooklyn Key anymore. And now I'm at this school where we're learning what major you're about to do. Is a whole bunch of different people. And I didn't understand toxic relationships at the time. And like, you know, it's like I knew what abusive relationship was, but if you would prior to that, I would be like, there's no way I would ever be in an abusive relationship because I'm so strong-minded. And but I'm trying to figure out what aspects of myself led me to be in this predicament. And I joined the choir where I got to like sing and express myself, not knowing then throat activation was opening up in me. And then that's when I felt it. that thing that I knew was like always there, which
Mhm.
was spirit. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I need more. And so singing led me into the church. And I was 6 months strong Christian, going through the fights with my mom about being Christian,
Oh.
going back and forth with me, arguments day in, day out, hanging up on me, just angry.
Oh.
Saying I'm Christian, but I'm reading the Bible because I've always been, if I say I'm something, I'm devout. Like,
Yeah.
no matter what it is, like I'm all in. So I'm like reading the Bible every day, going to church every Sunday. And all these questions that I started to have was incongruent to the church people, the goers. They didn't question certain things in certain ways. And so eventually that led me to the moment of saying, I don't think religion is my thing. Like, I feel like I sat in the car one day crying and I was like, I feel like you're real, but I feel like you're more than this book. And if I'm wrong, be completely obvious. And if I'm not, then keep showing me the way. And I denounced our religion on that day. And not too long after that, I cut my permed hair off. I went back being vegan. And I was like sitting in the grass, playing my guitar, hugging trees, all type of things, like in my hippie era. And that is where I started to feel really the essence of God. And I wasn't focused on what other people thought of me. And it was I was 18, 19. So this was like back in 2008, where it wasn't normal. It wasn't a trend. People was thinking I was a cult.
Yeah.
People was thinking I was a devil worshiper, thinking I was
Right.
people and all
And
type of
laughing at you. It's
yes,
like your
all
Mhm.
whole
type.
world turned upside down because
Right.
you fighting that part within yourself to be like, oh, this is what I know and this is what I
Absolutely.
need to become. So, but go ahead, continue.
Mm.
Yes, yes. And after coming out of that relationship and going into that space, that was like where I reaffirmed my conviction of my own self and like my own
Mhm.
sovereignty. I was like, this is the happiest I've ever felt in my life. When I was younger, I always still kept feeling like I was trying to be something else, like be more ghetto. Like if I'm saying hi, good morning to people in Brooklyn, they're like, what? We don't tell each other good morning. Like, stop talking to people, right?
Facts.
But it's like trying to shove down that portion of me. And to be in this space, it just was such deep resonance. I was like, I have to keep following this because this
Yeah.
path feels the closest to me. And
Mm.
that just continued to bring me into different spaces where I started studying esoteric science and metaphysics and spirituality, all different religions. I went through every religion I could possibly think of. And I was just like, and this is at the time where it's not easily accessible to you. You know, the internet ain't what
Yeah.
it was. Okay? So it's like
Mhm.
books upon books, lectures upon lectures. And I'm really just absorbing and then sitting. I had a lot of experiential experience with what I learned so that it wasn't just hoarded knowledge. You know, it was like, okay, I read that, but what do I feel? And
Yeah.
now knowing myself now, I could read something and then I receive like a bunch of downloads. I could read one
Mhm.
line and like
Mm.
go through
Mm.
a bunch of stuff. So that's pretty much like what started the journey was just really following on myself. This is how I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be. And wherever that took me, um, led me into all those different spiritual practices that I was like, I now know I feel called to also share how
Mm.
this could be a supportive of other people on their path.
Mhm.
Wow.
I
That's
love that. I
beautiful.
love that.
Yeah.
And that was actually leading me into my question, right? Because if you think about it, that was a whole story within itself, right? So before we get to the person that we are now, it was a backstory, right?
Mhm.
But
Mm.
nobody cares about that. That's why I love the way that you express that because
Yeah.
it sounds like a story to me, right? It's
Mhm.
like you went through this trauma, then you went through this and built, and then nope, scratch that, something came through, and
Mm.
then boop, no, that just don't sound right. Let me go to this. Maybe that sounded a little bit better. Oh, it do sound a little bit better, but it sounds the same as this, right? So,
Yeah.
like all of these things, it was like firing off, right?
Yeah.
But what took you to that next level that propelled you into shamanism?
Mm.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, because you could have stayed stagnant where you were within all of the studying, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, not hoarding, because you see so many people hoarding and wanting to
Yeah.
gatekeep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially now and today, because it became a trend. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But like you said, back in the day, you was getting laughed at. Like nobody wanted to hear that. He was like, "Is you out here in these?" Because I'm from the city too, right?
Yeah.
So people was like, they looking at you like, "Man, you getting out here in these streets? We gotta survive. We gotta make money,
Right.
man. Ain't nobody
Right.
trying to hear
Right.
all that."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So what propels you to get to that next level to say, hey, I want to actually be all in on this, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to study this, and I'm going to help people with this, you know, because most people stay stagnant and they stop where they are.
Yeah.
Yes, that's so real. It's one of the things I share with my community, my students, graduates a lot is you can't get into this and think it's about to be like McDonald's. Like there's a lot of McDonald's culture
Yeah.
going on. You know, it's like I want
Yeah.
to pull up and give me a number four, and I'm already a high priestess, or I'm already a, a healer, or I'm completely enlightened. It's like the path takes a lot of time, and it's through
Yeah.
your practices, your application that you get to the space of embodiment. So even
Mm.
fully embracing, like, okay, you're in this path of shamanism in this lifetime, took years, but it was
Yeah.
years of being the practitioner, years of holding space, years of being a teacher and a leader in spiritual space where it kept showing itself, but I had to break through a lot of other constructs and be anchored in a lot of stuff for me to even hold, I feel like the magnitude that I feel shamanism brings to my life, And so like in the beginning, when I said like I was in college, I've always been in leadership spaces of like being the president and vice president, section leader. So leadership always kind of been a part of my walk. And so because of that, and growing up in a very revolutionary home, my mom always told me to study like leaders like Malcolm X and just like Dr. Francis, like just a whole bunch of different people. So, but the context that I looked at it from was what made leaders thrive and what made leaders come to their downfall. And
Ooh, that's powerful.
That
yeah,
is.
and my mom at one point followed Dr. Malachi York. And, she had her different reasons as to why she stepped away from that. But just even a lot of those leaders where you saw like, or even just outside of revolutionary leaders, and we look at like priests and pastors, and then you're hearing like all these dark stories about them. It's like they messing with children, they beating up their women, they're doing fraudulent activity with money and this, that, and the third. So I was like, there's a shadow here that people aren't addressing within themselves. And I dove deep into that work, which is like becoming more psychologically aware. So my master's degree in music therapy took me into the space of psychology and abnormal psychology. Now I'm pairing it now with my spiritual awareness. I'm like, everything I'm taught, I'm looking at it from the sense of how does that psychological framework birth these energetic imprints? And so from that, I was like, okay, what I'm noticing, a lot of people don't deal with their trauma. A lot of people aren't addressing their demons. And the more that you become heightenedly aware of spiritual practices and alchemical alignment type of things, like if your beast isn't tamed, it uses what it learns against other people or to serve its own agenda. And I was like, okay, this is very deep. Okay. Because like, so example, a narcissist in its highest reflection is somebody that is able to manipulate energy, right? And shift the perception of people, right? Now, in this highest reflection of that, you could change people to come into their soul. You can shift the room from feeling dense and heavy, right, to feeling light and feeling love and feeling peace. But from the narcissist in his lowest expression, right, which would make him the narcissist, right? He wouldn't be that and called a narcissist.
Right.
But in his lowest expression, the lowest expression of being an alchemist, right? Because like the highest expression of a narcissist is an alchemist. As a narcissist, he's using the ability to know how to manipulate energy to serve his own agenda and to get people to serve him or to serve her, right? So as I started to really look at that, that called me to the work to within myself to address what's my shadows, what are some traumas I haven't sat with, what are some things that have really broken me down. Now I'm reflecting on that relationship because I didn't at first reflect on it, right? So I'm looking at it and digesting it in a very profound way. And I start to realize, oh, these aspects of myself make me more impressionable. These aspects of myself where I was abused causes a freeze state inside of me, causes a flight state inside of me. And so because I'm experiencing all of that, now I become more aware of how my shadow can show up and put me in certain circumstances. So I started to practice. I started to do different healing work and different healing modalities that led me deeper into my dream work and becoming a dream walker. When I stopped smoking weed, I stopped listening to at the time, like secular music. I only listened to music that was spiritual or empowering.
Wait, what's that? Am I missing something? What's that?
It's like rap or anything
that's
it's
like worldly music. Worldly.
Oh, okay. Got you.
Yeah, worldly. I stopped for like at minimum 2 years straight. I didn't listen to anything that wasn't empowering or spiritual. And I did this at 19 prior to like 21, like strict. And then 22 and on, I still stayed with that. But then I would also like include like, good R&B music type of thing. But rarely, it was very rare. And I stopped watching TV and stopped watching movies for years on end. And that helped me to declutter my mind tremendously. It helped me to be in tune with my yogini state. Right. And through that, now when I meditate, I'm not trying to work through all these thoughts. I'm actually could be still. And when I go into the dream world, I could be more lucid. I can now do astral projection. I can now do astral traveling. And through being able to do that practice, that's where shamanism starts to come in, because now I'm traveling to ashrams. I'm traveling to different villages and different dimensions where people are literally teaching me the ways. Where I'm in ceremony in my dreams, where women are and men baptizing me, cleansing me, showing me how to do certain rituals or whatever. And then I'm also like calling forth, shadow beings that's been in my life and addressing them in my dream, rather than having, sometimes you have a hard time because you don't get closure in physical life, but able to get closure in the dream realm because there's no space and time. You can travel through timelines. And so by doing that work, then the opening of learning shamanism came through. So that's why it's like a long-winded answer, because it's like, in order for me to get there, I had to clear a lot and understand a lot. Because if you go into moving through different realms, requires a great deal of mental stamina, mental strength, and like psychological resilience, so that you maintain who you are no matter what dimension you're in. You understand the laws and the rules of each dimension, and they're not melting, you lose yourself. Like it's some people, it's like because they entered into the spirit realm, it's hard for them to function here, and therefore they can't bring that medicine here to the community that make it practical. So it's like doing that psychological work made it easy to be able to do that, because you're not losing yourself, you're learning yourself more deeply. So once that started happening, then the shamanism call started coming in, and now I'm like speaking in, getting mounted, getting possession, speaking in different dialect and stuff like that. And the whole time I'm like, I didn't think those was real. My mom told me that was real. Being the witness and having no control, but just a true observer of a spirit coming through, speaking about stuff I know nothing about as it relates to the person I'm with. And like, oh my God, this is real, and not being weirded out by it, and being put in positions where now it's like, I remember a few years ago, my Babalawo, Kwame, had told me he practiced Palo Mayombe, and they deal with the shadow like really heavy. and we were doing a reading, and he was like, you all butterflies and rainbows and light, love, and all of this, right? He was like, but one day you're going to understand that that strong light that you carry is meant to come up against the strong oppositional darkness. And realizing that the work is not just to bring that bringing peace means to be able to use your light as a weapon against darkness, and not to banish it, but not to banish in the sense that like what we do with our own shadows and we like shame it, but to pierce through it, to create light to come into them, even if it's like one speck over time expands out. And so those words of wisdom really carried with me for a long time, because the first time I seen some spirits and I had to banish it, I was like, wow, okay, it's very real now.
Yeah.
And then getting into the spirit world, you start to understand like there's all these different varying vibrations and frequencies, and people don't even really realize it, that they're fueling it by their thoughts, by their energetic imprints, by the undigested things that they have within their heart. And so that's why, I felt I've been guided to do the work. Because when what was it, 2018, I was doing the work on like line and on the side, but it was like, no, it's time to be full-time in this, leave your 9 to 5 and completely devote your life to this. And I'm like, but I got benefits, I got good money, I got little people depending on me,
right?
But it's like the ultimate act of submission and surrender to a higher calling. It's like everything gonna work out. And I'm like, but how? And it's like I got to the point where I'm like, it's not even about confidence, it's about conviction. And I was convicted in being obedient to where my soul was being guided towards. And that was scary in a lot of ways, but also very liberating. And so from there, it's been completely full in this space. And that portion of myself being in shamanism has grown over the years because of just the application of the experiential work of, healing myself.
Absolutely. And
And
I love that you said that too, because I was just having a conversation yesterday, and basically it's like when we're being called to do something, it's not about like, because I feel like we have so much knowledge that we forget that that's not like, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if there's no action being taken with that knowledge in as well as it being applied to you, then it's almost useless, especially when you know that you're here for a purpose. So I was referring back to Noah. It's like it wasn't his belief in God that saved him. It was his obedience to the word that was given to him. Him taking what wasn't fully tangible and trusting himself enough to save himself. You know what I'm saying? As well as those who was meant to be saved by him and his obedience to the message that he was given. So I think that's very important.
And not only that, right? I see the way that you break down patterns. That's why I see like why you're a psychological alchemist, right? The way you put together your words, the sequence of them, and also the pattern of your thought process. One thing is always stacking on top of another. So something always have to lead to something else. You know what I mean? That's either progressive or digressive. You know what I mean? If it's digressive, I feel like you kind of learn to move away from that, right? And learn to move into the progressive. And that's kind of like what led you into becoming, the shaman that you are. And it kind of lead me into my question that I was going to ask you, like, can you explain to the people, like, what is a psychological alchemist? Because, a lot of people don't know how to blend mentalism with spirituality. A lot of people can't blend science with spirituality. It always got to be one or the other. So when I hear a psychological alchemist, I'm like, that's powerful because she found the perfect balance between mentalism and spirituality and brought both of these into one place. And a lot of people probably don't get it when you say that you're that. So can you explain that to the people?
Yes. So, yeah, psychology is the study of the mind, right? And alchemy is the ability to transmute heavy, I say burdens or heavy metals into gold, or I say wisdom, right? So your ability to transmute things from one thing to another. So with psychology, a lot of what we don't learn, and I'd be like, boy, we need to start over because the conditioning of this society is so backwards. We have multi layers of our being, right? We got our mental, our physical, our emotional, our astral, our buddhic, atmic, all these different layers. When we're focused on the mental, within our mind, we have different ways in which it's structured to show up for us. And the mind is a strategist, but a lot of time people think that the mind is the general, the leader that is supposed to be guiding your way. But the mind really only works as a computer. It works off of an algorithm. It works off your patterns, and it changes when you change with emotional charge, with informed consent. The pattern is now going to be operating different than we once did before, right? And that goes into like neuroplasticity. The moment that you get into a habit of something, it's very hard to break out of that habit because our mind is so fixated on patterns, right? And our mind is wired off of survival rather than thriving and happiness and joyfulness. It creates the systems on how do I survive in this world. And we live in a society where we're not like in the jungle where survival is just like basic needs. Survival is whether you belong here, right? So when you are growing up in your household, if you didn't feel like your parents received you, if you didn't feel like your caregivers showed up for you emotionally, if they abused you, if they neglected you, if they rejected you, abandoned you, all these different things, your mind will see that as a threat to your survival. Because if this person doesn't love me, they're not going to care for me. They're not going to give me my basic needs of food, shelter, water, and all that kind of stuff. And so let me think of ways that can strategize me to be able to survive in this environment. And this is how we start creating personalities and archetypes within ourselves that we find to be most successful in achieving belonging. And so that might look like I'm gonna be a people pleaser because if I appease my dad and make him feel, good and inflate his ego or do the things that he likes to do, then I'm the good girl. I'm the best starter. He loves me. He's gonna do what I need, and now I'm belonging, right? And there's just many different ways that we will do that. And so the alchemy comes in and says, we're more than just patterns. We're more than just strategy. We have consciousness and we have heart intelligence as well. And we have soul intelligence. And all of those different things have different layers of guidance. So I can use my mind to support me in how to best show up in my position of the world, because my mind is going to create my ego. And a lot of times people be like, you got to kill your ego. But it's really like you have to reform your ego. Right? So,
somebody said it. Thank you.
we are egoless to there's a reason why Eastern yogis say to dissolve the ego. But it's to understand it in the way that we've been conditioned in our society is to understand that the ego is an interface. It is how your avatar is showing up in the world around you, right? So if my ego is fixated on being the people pleaser, fixated on being the martyr, fixated on being the overgiver, fixated on controlling and bullying other people, then that can cloud my ability to reach my soul's impressions, because those type of archetypes create a lot of psychic debris within your channels, right? So when I realized that that's just a pattern that I created in order to survive my environment, Then I start to get into witness consciousness. And through witness consciousness, I can develop the alchemy to change and transmute the way that I've been viewing the world around me, and I've been viewing myself. Now I'm able to connect what I've learned through the lens of wisdom, which is the alchemy, and say, okay, all of these things are not me. These are all predictions and creations made just to feel belonging, just to feel safe, just to feel love. Now that I have recognized that, let me sit still and allow the emanations of my own soul to come through. When I do that, more alchemy takes place, because now I receive that intuitive guidance of why I'm here, who I am, and how I am. And I allow my ego to create a vehicle that best can support the facilitation of my soul's emanations. So when I say psychological alchemy, it is like being able to transmute the mind to work as a devotee of your soul, and not as the general of your soul. It has to not be demoted, but rearrange the position that it thinks it holds in your life.
Woo, you a beast with the words. Woo! You broke that shit down. Oh my God.
Beautifully.
Oh my God, you did that. I'm not even gonna lie. You did that and you explained that perfectly.
Gratitude, brother.
So my question would be, so because it takes a lot of work to, in my experience for myself and me kind of getting to that place where I'm able to, I don't have to fight the negative thoughts and the positive thoughts. You know, I can sit and be the observer without attaching myself to or creating a storyline to like whatever's coming up. But I guess, how can I say this? What would you say, or how would you, like with your clients, how do you guide one from deciphering between the ego and authenticity? Because I feel like a lot of the time, especially nowadays, I feel like we are still only touching a surface level of self, and we're painting the ego as authenticity, and there's a big difference.
Yes.
You know what I'm
saying? Yes.
So how would you? So yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I teach in my intuitive counseling course is like people hear that and they think, okay, we're just focusing on your intuition, but really it's just such a deep psychological dive, right? Because I'm like, no way you get into your intuition until you know your mind, because that's what right. I mean, your third eye is literally here in front of your mind, so they have to have collaboration and partnership in order to thrive.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I do teach is understanding the mechanics of the mind. And so there's something I say like is your psychological wounds. And you might hear this in different communities, but different ways in which they're expressed. And the mind has its own imbalances and shadows. So if I, for example, step away from that, if I go into my chakras right now, right, and I say, you know, the root chakra, I'm like, what keeps it balanced? What keeps it imbalanced? People who know chakras would say like, okay, the root chakra is like, you feel stable, you feel secure. In imbalance, you feel more fear, you feel more insecure, right? So it's like the same thing with the mind. The mind has its high vibration and its lower or incongruent vibration, right? And so the mind has a wounded narrative. And it's important to understand what those wounded narratives tell you. Those wounded narratives can be broken down into your psychological wounds. Each psychological wound creates different shadows, because in order for that wound to feel safe, it will create a mask. And that mask will create a byproduct. That byproduct is our shadows, right? It is what happens to the parts of us that become so disconnected from or separated from our true self that it starts to become rebellious, lashing out, or whatever type of stuff. And then we create our ego based off of that shadow. And that's how it's showing up in the world. So a lot of times I say you have to kind of you have to first got to go back to the root,
Yeah.
What is the wounds that you have incurred, and what kind of narratives do they tell you? Because they're very specific. And when you understand your wounds and where they came from, now you can now map how they have channeled out and created certain shadows within yourself. So you now also need to map your shadows. What are some things that can come up for me, and utilizing the world around you? A lot of people would be like, don't listen to other people. There's a lot of cutoff culture. And while that's important in certain respects, it's like we are mirrors of each other to reflect that we need to know about ourselves.
Agreed.
Right? So reflections at certain points may be to test your your unwavering choice and your authenticity, but they can also tell you how the world is receiving you and how it's like you need to shift that, because this is what I'm experiencing with you. If multiple people are telling you like, I'm experiencing this from you, there's more than likely something you need to like take a look at, right?
Right.
So once you
the common denominator.
Yes, exactly. So once you like mapped your shadows, now you can see how that shadow created the ego, right? And it is like a lot of work, because unfortunately we don't live in a society that nurtures our nature. There's so much layers upon layers within us that has derailed a lot of our minds from our true authenticity, right? And it's like even a lot of the practices that we bringing into our world right now, like in Eastern spirituality, it's like these people are in monasteries and ashrams for 10 hours a day, sitting down, meditating. You're not living that life. They're in meditating, doing yoga for hours out of their day, minimal dramatic experiences that they're going through. And so it's like you're bringing that into a world that is completely full of a lot of delusion, a lot of illusion, a lot of separatism. So our mind is more at a heightened like war than other places constantly. So as you said, kind of scratching the surface, that is true for a lot of us, because there's so much that we built on top of ourselves, thinking that it's who we are when it's not. But the mind does lean more towards your nature, but just the shadow part of your nature. So the person that might be more of like an overgiver or a people pleaser, their nature is to be loving and giving. The shadow side of that is doing it to the detriment of themselves.
Right.
Where they find themselves within the equation, right? Because evolution says we get to cosmic understanding, which is unity consciousness, where everything is included. We're not separate, we're all one. So that's also a good marker to say, like, is the way that I'm thinking, the way that I'm moving, have include the whole, or is it just serve myself, right? Is it better for the whole? Do I show up as a better person for humanity when I make this shift within myself? Or does this only like cut off others and create more lack within other people, or within humanity as a whole? So there is so many layers to it. And that's why I'd be like, you can't McDonald's this thing, right?
Yeah, I agree. But that's why it kind of brought me to that question, because I feel like even for myself, and I'm actively, thankfully for me, I've had a lot of time in downtime to be able to kind of surf my shadow and do that inner work and dedicate myself to shadow work within myself. And every day I discover something different or new or whatever. It's like the layers, like you said, is just, it's stacked. It's like a file box that you're like, oh, like it's like a never ending file box sometimes, And so it made me think that majority of society, because now it's easier for me to see where majority of society are operating out of wounds and don't even notice. Even the ones that are so-called healed.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? To where it's so much deeper than that. Because if your shadow work isn't accompanied by some sort of ascension or energetic shift, it's not deep enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've noticed the deeper that I go, like my energy, my Kundalini energy will continue to rise and chakras become more balanced, things of that nature. But there's just so much that, like, I'll say this, we're so distracted, like you said, to where it's almost it's like, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it makes it impossible to truly fully dive deep into your being and um discover who you are authentically
Yes.
in the society that we're in, because it's like there's no time to sit down. There's no time to think. You're worried about bills, you're watching TVs, we're scrolling, we're arguing with family and friends, you got your kids to take care of, you're driving, got to pay attention to the road. Like it's just so much that we're paying attention to outside of ourselves, that makes it
Yeah.
very difficult for us to actually truly get the best out of shadow work.
Mm-hmm.
Shay.
Yes.
And that's why I always tell people, man, like for me personally, right? Because, losing a parent at such a young age, losing my mother at the age of 4, and, things going through things with my dad and, his addictions and in and out of jail and stuff like that. I always tell people, tap into your inner child, man, because that's the part of yourself that you didn't have to worry about none of this, right? The
Yeah.
part of yourself that wasn't thinking about nothing but having fun, living freely, being happy in the world. That was your true spiritual essence. You know what I mean? So you have to kind of like go back and find a piece of that within yourself and bring it back to yourself, because whether people recognize it or not, that piece of yourself is still living out in a realm somewhere, right?
Mm.
And whether you choose to, bring it back home or let some other energy take advantage of it, you feel what I'm saying? Then that's on you. And I agree with what Kai said, because no one is ever truly healed. You know what I mean? It's going to be something pulling at your triggers. It's going to be something that tests your ego. You know what I mean? It's going to be things that test you constantly every day. So
Yeah.
no one is ever really truly healed. But coming from a shamanistic aspect, right, Akiyla? Like, to the people who may not really be, fully tapped in the way that you or Kai are, or practicing the things that you practice on a deeper level, with some practical things that they could practice, like when they feel overwhelmed, like
Mm,
they just coming into this and they felt the way you felt, right, back when you was 18 and 19, right?
yeah.
You was like, oh my god, this is so much, like I don't know what to do with it, and nobody's around you, right? Like when you was in those situations, like what's some practical things that people can do to kind of like bring themselves back into?
That's a great question. So, I want to first say with about the healing process, especially as it comes to our mind, because a lot of times it's like we're feeling that where it's impossible to heal because we're focused on the mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's more to understand that the mind requires daily maintenance.
Mm.
That's a lot of what Eastern psychology and
Yeah.
spirituality teaches us. That's why they say meditate. That's why they say
Mm-hmm.
stretch, and that's why because your body signals to the mind all of these feelings of threat and survival, right? So we have to make sure we give spaciousness in the body to free itself from thinking that it's in environments that are unsafe. That way it doesn't signal to the mind,
Yeah.
the amygdala, to live fear-based, right?
Mm. Yes.
So because our mind needs daily maintenance, one of the things, well, before I say that, just to give it grounded even more, if I, get a cut right here on my hand, um, the nociceptors and all my skin cells are going to immediately start to repair the wound that's on my skin. It does it without me asking it. It does it without my
Mm.
observation. One day I'll look up and I have a scab, right?
Right.
It's healed itself. I could assist it if I have presence and awareness and maybe put some aloe on it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the mind doesn't work that way. The mind needs your witness consciousness to
Mm.
repattern itself. Healing more, we've bubbled it into like healing, but it's really like making sure that we are understanding is repatterning and configuration, that we make sure we address it in real time rather than lingering it. Because when we let it linger, then it starts to identify as that's who it
Mm.
is, you know?
Mm.
So when we shift our perception to understanding that healing is really just integrating and being present with all parts of ourselves, including the daily maintenance of our mind, then we realize this is a journey of life. That is what life is. That's what life requires. My witness, my mind requires my witness consciousness, so that it doesn't accumulate with a whole bunch of cuts on it that's going unhealed, or unrepaired. And so, going into your question of like what's practical for me is I can become more aware of what my narratives are when I do sit in meditation. I sit in meditation every day. And that allows me to kind of quiet my thoughts and allow things to dissolve, but also for me to be aware of what's going on in my subconscious mind. What's the tape recorder that's going on that I'm not aware of in the moment. And once I bring those things forward, I can now address them so they're not just taking up space in my mind. And I'm not operating based off of just that tape recording, that making sure that my subconscious programming is aligned with my life trajectory, right? And then so we got meditation. You got somatic movement. The body, it's so much people are learning now, like nervous system regulation and the body keeps it's a big trend, but really dive deeper into understanding like your body is a radar system. It scans out its environment and it holds that memory inside of it, inside of your tissues, inside of your muscles. And so in order for it to release it, it has to do things like stretch. It has to do some type of movement or dance or something like that, so that energy is not stagnant inside of you. Therefore, it can't repeat the cycle to your brain. Something doesn't feel right. So if I give you an example, if you get in an argument with a partner and the way that they talk to you reminds you of how your dad mistreated you, your body goes back into that space and time. Your hippocampus can't tell the difference between the past, present, and the future, and everything starts to collide. And you start thinking like of all the times people have taken advantage of you, started, treating you, and acted certain ways with you. And now you're bringing all of that energy in this moment, right? So your body might begin to lock up just as it did the very first time you experienced it. If I don't address my body in that moment, now I start thinking for days, weeks, months.
Right.
That the way that my body felt, whether my body felt in fear, whether it felt in rage, people like angry for months on end, years on end. The Black woman is labeled as angry and stuff like that, holding on to so much, because of overproducing. So when I do somatic body work, I free myself from the tenseness. I free myself from feeling contracted. And I make myself feel more expansive. When I feel more expansive, my body can breathe. My mind can think something other than fear-based thoughts. So that's another thing, including somatic work into your daily regimen. Being with your breath. When we breathe, we activate higher levels of consciousness and higher levels of cognition within us. The breath is like, woo.
No, I feel you because I box breathe now before I go to sleep. I box breathe.
Amazing.
So I just pull in, hold it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Let 4 go up to the brain. Stop. Breathe out 4. Hold another 4. Breathe in 4. You know what I mean? So that box breathing, I've been doing that in a way I have been lucid dreaming and being able to remote view like what's actually going on now. So I was actually going to ask you about that. That's the crazy part. I was going to ask you how important is breathing when it comes to studying the type of work that you do.
It's extremely important because you can utilize your breath to quicken your energy and cultivate, like bringing up Shakti energy or Kundalini energy. You could bring it to slower where you're extending your exhales. Now you're getting more into the Shiva, or yogi state, the very calm, still aspect of yourself. You can utilize your breath as you're doing, like going into it with more lucidity, where you're able to be more present and conscious of the dream realm and able to remember, what it is that you experience in that space. when we breathe, we slow down our heart rate. And that allows us to regulate our nervous system. When our nervous system feels at ease, it's more compassionate, it's more present, has more accessibility to joy, has more accessibility to connection. If I'm angry, I can't connect with you. It's like no matter what you say or what I say, it's like we just bumping heads, right? But if I'm at ease, then I can see like, okay, even if what you did was not okay, I can understand how you got there because I've slowed myself down enough to pay attention to the narratives and the progressive lines that got you to where we're at in the first place, right? So the breath can help us to organize better because the breath will put the nervous system in a dorsal vagal state. And when it does that, it now has the accessibility to think more clearly and feel from the heart because it's activating your heart as well. And the heart is a huge component to how we relate with people in general. So that would be going into the next thing, which is like doing heart work. Your heart is your access and portal to your soul. If you are holding on to too much grief, too much hate, too much distrust, too much betrayal, all of those things make it difficult for you to receive the magnitude of your soul, right? Because your heart is, it's like it is the physical manifestation. Metaphysically, it is God, right? The God inside of you, right? Because it's the only part of you that delivers and receives and touches everything in the body. The nervous system can give information to the body, but the heart gives like elixir, cosmic elixir, life force energy to the body, right? And life force energy is also connected to the breath. So when I'm breathing, I'm also activating my heart because my heart carries that oxygen within my blood, right? And giving it to all parts of myself. So sitting with your hand on your heart and doing visualizations of clearing your heart, telling yourself you love yourself, giving gratitude to yourself, giving gratitude to the world around you, giving gratitude for all your lessons, all of the collisions that you experience that help you to understand yourself better, what you're not going to do and what you need in your life. All those things help to deepen your relationship with your heart. And when you get into that space, you feel more yummy.
Yeah.
You feel more at peace. Your inner child comes out. You feel like the playful you, the one that's like, hey, I got these toys. You want to be my friend? And you're more discerning because you feel people now, right? And our thoughts reflect our reality because our thoughts construct what we feel eventually. Like what I think, I start to create feelings around that, right? And if I think things that are incongruent to the truth, I create emotions that are more chaotic, like more rage, more feelings of distrust and stuff like that. And our emotions build up our astral body. And our astral body is what people feel from you. So that's why in the beginning when Kaii was talking about, like, you could tell who's really in it and who's really doing it for performance. It's because their astral body tells everything. You could tell how much of the person is embodied by how they feel, their energy. And that's the emanation from their own heart. What you're feeling from people is the embodiment of their heart. How much of your heart have you dove into? How much of your heart have you cleared? How much, like, the Egyptian Kemet, they talk about my art bringing in balance, being light as a feather, right? Not holding the burdens of resentment and bitterness inside of your heart. So those are some practical things. We could go on and on and on.
No,
But
I love it. I love it. You keep going. I love it. You got me locked in. Keep going.
but definitely knowing like the meditation is stillness, doing somatic work, being with your breath and being with your heart, that is true self-care. Yes, you can take care of your aesthetics, get your hair done, get your nails done, get your little shape up, all that. That's caring for your physical body. But true self-care is being keeping up the maintenance of your internal terrain. And that's a daily devotion. It's like, just like, you'll wake up every day, like, you don't want to be in front of people with bad breath. So you're going to brush your teeth. You're going to wipe your eyes. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's like, you don't want to be out here with like stinky astrobodies.
The heebie-jeebies on you.
You know what I'm saying? With this stuff on you. You want to cleanse your aura. You want to brush your aura. You want to shower it with, right love. And that's, I can't stress that enough. Like, that's true self-care. It's the maintenance of your internal terrain.
That's it. I love that.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. I think it died. Okay. But I think that's a great point for us to kind of take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back.
Okay.
All right. 1 sec, y'all.
Peace, family, peace. To the gods and goddesses out there. This is C here with Eyes Open Clothing, where we specialize in metaphysical symbology in every piece of our clothing. And we also blending that with streetwear as well. Very comfortable, stylish for any occasion, but you still letting people know what you represent, that higher consciousness and that higher vibration. So tap in with us, family. Ashe.
This is Cecilia, a goddess, founder of Konnections to Ascension. I help people transform their lives through spiritual work, manifestation, and healing. From powerful rituals and cleanses to handmade jewelry, candles, and retreats that restore your spirit, everything I create is designed to bring you abundance, protection, and alignment. If you're ready to elevate, connect with me at connectionstoascension.com or follow me on social media at Cecilia, a goddess. Your glow up starts here.
Are you ready for your rebirth? Well, visit sacredmelaninedalchemy.com. Welcome back, guys. All right.
Ooh, I'm kind of out of breath, y'all. I had to go grab my charger. I was like, no, I can't miss this conversation. Let me run. Listen, I spread it.
Right.
But go ahead, Kaii.
Well, you made it back on time. All right. So I just wanted to also mention, because we were kind of talking about how you can feel like that someone's aura because it hits different when you've really done the inner work, and I mean like extensively, and you're breaking through the barrier of those layers of the shadow. Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking about this actually the last few days, even as I mentioned what I said talking about yesterday, but it's like you'd be surprised how many of our spiritual leaders haven't fully integrated, like, their shadow work is very surface level, but their knowledge is, you'd think, because they have all of this knowledge in whatever that they've done the inner work on self, but understanding the universe itself and being able to, like you were saying earlier, when you're able to read something and then you can instantly receive all of those downloads, that takes a significant amount of inner work to do, to filter through the ego, because the ego is going to block a lot of those downloads from coming in, because you don't know what's yours and what's not. And so like I was telling you, your aura, your energy, it's very light, it's very expansive, and that's something that you feel when you're around someone who's who's like achieved that inner balance, that inner stability. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like a lot of us have to be more discerning. And I think that as time goes on, more, you know, things will reveal itself over time. But but I just think that it's a beautiful thing to be have you, because it just shows how important it is to walk in your purpose, because no one can fully walk in your purpose the way that you do. Right. And one thing that gets us all is the psychological aspect of evolving. You can evolve in so many different ways, but the psychological aspect is the hardest one, and that's what's going to keep us trapped, you know.
Oof. Yes, that's why so many different traditions speak about know thyself, master the self. It's like you are your own cosmos, right? As above, so below. So there's so much to study with inside of you, and there's so many layers to the self. Only to come to it's like only one thing, but so many different avenues that you will see all the dynamics of yourself. And so it's like a laudable journey. It's a voyage.
Yeah.
You know? It's like trying to just travel the world. There's certain parts that you could go ahead and see, and some parts you may not get to in this lifetime. Because we also have to remember, like, this is soul work. It's not just this mind work within this vehicle. That's why some people come with certain levels of resources earlier on than earlier too, where some people might be like ending life, transitioning through the physical vehicle that they're in currently, and just coming into some of this stuff. You know, it's like this is like lifetimes of work, or lifetimes of journeying through the self, because the self is really the soul. It's not even the mind. So you're learning to get through all of the barriers of the human body to get to the self, which is the soul. You know, so it's like you're studying God consciousness, and it's a lot in there.
Yeah.
You
know? So to build on what Kai was saying, right? As far as like, you know, leaders that's like not going deep enough in things of that aspect, right? I could say from what I observed is that it's not more so of the divine feminine, it's more so of the divine masculine, or the masculine that just can't seem to break past certain thresholds of physical aspects, right? Of being so much in that masculine that they can't tap into the feminine aspects of intuition, discernment, insight, right? Because, you know, they aren't practicing, you know, the things that help them gain that type of insight or clarity, right? Like you spoke on earlier, as far as like with altars and things like that. Like I had mine's right behind me. So I've been, you like, you see, she's seen the symbol or whatever, but, you know, I feel like the divine masculine is not like really doing their part on the end of tapping into their spirituality enough, right, to be able to discern certain things within the spirit. So, with that being said, from a divine feminine aspect, what would be a message to the divine masculine that you would have about tapping in more to their spiritual, intuitive aspects of self, rather than just being the protector, the provider, I gotta think mentally, I gotta move by logic, I gotta be a word sorcerer. You feel what I'm saying? So just give a little message to them, you know?
Okay. So I get this question asked a lot, and I always be like, I really don't think in terms of gender.
Right.
I think in terms of principle. And when we remember principle, we remember wholeness, because I have the divine masculine and the divine feminine in me. My
Exactly.
physical emanation is I'm a woman, right?
Right.
But both of those things reside inside of me. I honor the divine father and the divine mother every time I pray, every time I do any type of work. There's none of this without both. So when I speak into, you know, men, it's about remembering that you have the divine feminine principle inside of you. Part of the illusion is in separation, because really dark energy is things that bring you further and further away from the source, right?
Mhm.
And so the patriarchy brings you further from the source of yourself, because it tells you men don't cry, men don't be too vulnerable, men don't, you know, that makes you weak and stuff like that. If I tell you that, you won't sit with your heart, right? Because if you sit with your heart, you become such a magnanimous man. You become more powerful. You're not as rigid or easily programmable, because now you can feel what feels right and what doesn't feel right. But if you don't have access to your heart, it's easy for me to tell you we're going to go to war and we're going to bomb these countries, even if we're killing young children, because you don't have access to a part of yourself that would make you have that level of awareness. And so, speaking to man, it's like understanding that that was actually put up there to confuse you and to rob you of your rightful lineage, your cosmic roots. Know that you come from a divine mother, divine father, and both of those aspects reside and need to live and embody through you for you to be in your full body consciousness. There's none of that without it. And being and honoring the divine feminine doesn't make you, has nothing to do with your sexual orientation, has nothing to do if you're not going to be a provider or anything like that. You have to have both, because on the other end, when people are too much in the divine feminine, which is like spiritual intuition, nurturing, you know, that principle, divine feminine principle, then you see a lot of them, they don't want to work. They don't they don't want to do much. They want, you know, be served. And I'm not even just mean women. I mean like just spiritual people who are like very floaty. You know what I'm saying? And it's like all talk but no materialization. And it's because they've not connected to the divine masculine, because divine masculine has the intelligence to say, let's put the structure in order and organize it, create the parameters that would hold this level of container of intuitive intelligence, right? It's going to put it forth, and it's going to hold the order. The divine feminine is going to bring about the level of openness and submission to receive cosmic information, and the masculine is going to say, now what I receive, let me build. And it's like, go ahead.
I love that you said that. Like, she's basically what she gets the information, he takes it and brings it into the physical. So she takes from the spiritual and he brings it into fruition, and he begins to take the intangible and make it tangible, kind of thing.
Yes. And that's all happening inside of one person. It's not just labeled the man or the woman. So it's like, even in my, if I'm speaking about my line of work, whatever, all the downloads that I received, the visions that I received of what I'm supposed to be doing in this lifetime, I had to tune into my divine masculine to make it happen. To say, like, I'm going to create the structures and the systems that will hold the space, hold the frequency to help people with their transformation, to help people to come into their sovereign self. But if I was just holding on to the downloads and in the business, I'm just like floating everywhere with no anchoring, right? So it's the same thing where a man is like, he can be so super knowledge based and like know all the information, and, all the words, all the jargon to sound completely intellectually elite. But if he don't have context to his heart, he missed the connection with the people, with the community. He missed the connection with nature itself. He missed the connection with being able to be humbled by something larger than himself. And now it's like he'll try to enthrone himself above everything else without listening to the divine wisdom that's around him, you know, because he's placed himself in a position that is hierarchical in a disruptive or chaotic way, right? And if we look at the world, we know a lot of the world is based off of the it's not divine masculine, it's based off of the wounded masculine. Right? And the wounded masculine is so certain, right? agendas and allow me power and control, right? Divine masculine says like I have the ability to build these systems and communities, and my connection to the divine feminine is I make sure I put the heart in the communities, that I put love in the community, that we're connected on a soul level, and that I see people at their depth and not as tools for my own agenda, you know. So that'll be like the message that I would say is to remember.
Listen, as a
Break it
divine
down. That's
masculine,
good.
listen, man, that was powerful, and I'm appreciative to even be able to hear that from both of you, divine feminine, right? Because, like I told you guys, I lost my mom at the age of 4, so it wasn't no divine feminine around me. All I had was this, right? So now that I have a divine feminine in my life, right? She told me to F apart when I first met her, right? Had me crawling hands and knees, you hear me? For real. And I wasn't willing to accept it at first, right? I was still, like you said, I was the wounded masculine. You feel what I'm saying? But the more and more I'm diving into those things that you're speaking of, right? It's like, okay, this is the part of life that gets greater where I truly find balance in this thing, and I can really, not only create the life that I want for my family, but for myself internally and externally. So that was perfectly put. And I thank you for that. And if any divine masculine or wounded masculine out here, right, that's listening right now, take some gems from that, man, and learn from that. You feel me?
It's so necessary, and I love that you broke it down the way that you did, because again, we have such an imbalance to where, like, the way that we think that things should be, right? And like you said, you need both aspects of self. It's all within us. We're all of everything, yet all of nothing at the same time. So it's necessary for us to understand, like, okay, and I had to understand that too for a little bit, because I was surely in my divine feminine. I did not want to work for nobody.
That's where that masculine come in handy. Cause guess what? I ain't finna sit there and not work. You heard me? I ain't finna sit there and not do nothing. Look, my masculine kick in quick. You hear me? But go ahead, proceed, Kaii.
Like, who the heck? Who fought for us to work? We need to find her. You know what I'm saying?
I think, and it's gonna look different, for each person, how it's materialized through that, but whatever you receive should be somehow being materialized. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And not through the construct of like America, not through the Matrix. The Matrix has a completely distorted view of how men and women are supposed to like show up. So it's like even trying to come back in contact with building something that's not even here yet, through that level of remembrance, not even our men should be working that hard. You know what I'm saying? Because when the man is working for 60, 80 hours a week, for even 40 hours a week, he's missing his family time, right? It's like more focused on making a dollar than making meaningful and present relationships with the family. It's not to say it can't be done, but it's like there's more focus on all this external, living a dollar. You know what I'm saying?
But even when that comes to going back to what we were saying earlier, of not having that time to fully integrate what you've learned about yourself in general, if we're always working and doing and because that's not, we weren't designed, like what our last live was talking about, the mentality of breaking the mentality of the 9 to 5. We're not meant to work ourselves to the bone to, like, who wants to work till you're freaking hold on. But,
that's a fact.
Right. With no purpose on top of that. There's no purpose, there's no mission, there's no connection, it's just like you're building these corporations that are doing more damage than good.
That's a fact. And me personally, as a masculine, I love the work. Like me personally, I love physical labor. Like that's my workout. That's my therapy. I love breaking a sweat. right? But at the same time, I started thinking to myself, like, I could make this shit easier on myself and just go work out and build on my spirituality and really worry about what's for me and not had to think for somebody else for 8 hours a day. But you know, with that being said, you feel me? I want to know, Akiyla, like when it comes to not only your practice in shamanism, right? Spiritually and mentally, how do we get people to discern correctly, right? Because I always hear people say, it's my intuition. And I ask people sometimes, like, how do you
It's
know that's your discernment or is that your trauma? Give me a solid
true.
answer, right? How do you differentiate these things, right? How do you differentiate your first voice from your second voice, from your gut against something else that's telling you to do, the opposite, right? In a
Yeah.
world full of illusions, in a world full of distractions, in a world full of propaganda, in a world full of fear mongering, right? Coming from somebody that's been practicing what they've been practicing for so long, how do you like what would you suggest for people to do on a basic level to kind of like help them discern correctly? Because I see it so much like, you sure? And that's why I be asking, like, in my mind, I be asking, like, you sure that's your intuition? Because I don't sound like your
You
intuition.
can feel
But
it though.
anyway, but
Yes.
so like, what would you like? How would you advise people to discern a little bit more correctly? Like psychologically and spiritually.
Definitely doing all the work that we mentioned previously, and then also distinguishing between intuition and psychic. Your intuition is like your own higher self, is like your own internal compass giving you guided information. And then psychic information is like you receiving messages from spirits or like your spirit guides or your ascended masters or your ancestors or God and stuff like that. That is like a transmission coming to you externally, right? So we do have more contact with our intuition on a daily basis, but when you really get into the spiritual realm, you realize like only tethered souls are talking to you about your day-to-day stuff,
Right.
that are so spending so much time about what this person said and this person did and like you want to work with spirits that come to you when it's necessary.
Yeah.
That come to you at pivotal points in your life. So if you are talking to spirits that are engaging in, the gossip behaviors or like telling you how you need to get your lit back, you're not talking to spirits that are benevolent or have ascended to a certain level of capacity. Something in their lifetime made them more attached to the world, and they're like, in limbo. And so it's really also about learning the different types of spirits that you're communicating with, right? And the levels of energy and frequency that they hold. And when you shift your frequency as well and you're working on your own internal terrain, the levels of access you have to different types of spirits expand and grow. If I'm constantly stewing on this person did me that way and I gotta stay dangerous and I'm gonna do hexes and black magic, the spirits that you're gonna be talking to that's giving you all this information are vengeful spirits,
Yes.
And underworld, those
And they
type.
gonna and that's the ones that's gonna come back and get you too. They gonna come back and eat you alive too.
They
You
trying
think you
to live
playing that? They gonna come back and get you too. That's what I tell people.
They do.
I ain't mean to cut your wisdom, but that was real right there.
It's real. It's a real thing. You okay?
It is. And I think too, like, a lot of times people think they're working these spirits and the spirit is working them.
I'm telling you. A lot of that is happening. And that's why it's important first to work with your own intuition before you even try to start communicating with other spirits.
And getting that heart.
And getting into your heart. Because the clearer and lighter your heart is, the more it connects. Because remember, again, like I was saying, it's your physical manifestation of God, like what it connects to, right? Yeah. It's so far back and not enough emanation towards with light. It's only going to attract more spirits that are riddled with a lot of grief, riddled with a lot of betrayal and shame and guilt, and vengefulness, resentment and bitterness and all of that. So doing that internal work helps develop your discernment so that you know. I feel like be wary of saying spirit said this, spirit told me this every day. If this happening like on an everyday basis, if you're every other line is spirit telling me this,
Yo,
for
you
yourself.
so on point. I'm sorry, because you so on point. I be thinking about the people that I be talking to sometimes. Like, yeah,
Right.
No, and
my bad. Go ahead.
No, you good.
agreed. Agreed.
It's a real thing. So it's like and then you want to have intentional consultation. Yes, you're gonna be in motion when spirit kind of like drop things with you, but you also want to have intentional communication. So like you're talking about your altar behind you, like sitting at your altar or a sacred space or a space where you created a vortex for communication, where you are intentional about what's coming through for you and communicating it back and filtering it again through your own higher consciousness to make sure that that's something that resonates with what is aligned for you in this lifetime, because it will feel, you know, more love based than it is separation based. And a lot of I've said this multiple times, but a lot of mean girls and grimy dudes from back in the day, they used to just be doing stuff to people, bullying people, being real vengeful towards people. A lot of them are coming into this work as well, and teaching people about, you know, doing black magic and doing hexes on others and doing love spells and all type of stuff. And you lose yourself in that, because now it's the distorted mind.
Yeah.
You know,
distort your mind more.
Say it again.
After a point, like it'll distort your mind even more after a certain point when you're not grounded in who you are. Because then because at that point, because when I initially, before I started doing readings, and I knew that was like they were guiding me, I didn't want to do it at first.
Yes.
But then when they pushed me towards that path, I said, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. And that's when I really like intentionally began my shadow work. And I knew that if I had to do this, took steps. Like there's no, people are just hopping right on in. There's no pregame. There's no initiations. you cold turkey, like
right.
like you can't even decipher your own ego. Your higher self from your lower self.
Yeah.
And to think that you can step into an arena of the unknown when you haven't discovered the unknown within yourself is dangerous work. And that these individuals who, like you were saying, get distorted, and then you find yourself in psychosis.
Yes. Because the cycling in the same waters.
And that's why. Oh, excuse me, my bad. Y'all go ahead.
Sorry, but like you were saying earlier, with astral projection and things of that nature, it takes a profound level of psychological, like, you know, discipline. Like you have to know who you are. You have to be grounded in your being. You have to know yourself through and through, because there's going to be spirits that are going to test you too.
Don't leave it up to your mind all the time. Tap in with your heart. Let it filter through your heart. If you can't feel your heart, then you gotta go do some work before you take in that information, and then see as it filters through again if it comes through the same. Because as information is coming through, it's filtering through you know, your ego, your mind, right here, filtering through. Even your crown is coming through your mind. So if your mind has certain traps within it, has certain wounded narratives, you can distort what those messages are and configure it to your own desires, you know. And you have to be willing to say, I can get this incorrect. You have to be willing to say, I don't know it all. You have to be willing to say, I'm still learning. Even as you're asking, you know, asked about shamanism, it's like, oh, this took many years for me to even be like, okay, I accept spirit. Because even as Kaii was saying, like at first you're like, whoa. And I it's really a marker for those who are truly called to do the work, because when you feel it, you like, oh, that's a big responsibility. That requires not even just the responsibility of other people, but for me, like there's certain things I can't even do anymore because of what that calling requires of you.
Exactly.
You know? And it's like, if the person just like, oh, this is gonna give me the status I want, you already know it's not filtered through the proper channels or like a spiritual calling, and more so like chasing a trend or chasing a status quo.
Absolutely. And I think that even with that being said, like you said, when you step into your path, especially tarot, doing readings or whatever, from whatever aspect, shamanism, there you have to step up. You're not it's like you're not allowed to enter into this field when it's truly your calling. You're gonna have that conviction within yourself to like, there is like, if I don't do this right, there's blood on my hands.
Yes. Okay.
Thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like even to the down to like certain things that I post. Like there's certain things I just won't post, mainly because I know that there's people who look up to me. There's people who have followed me from where I began. And the last thing I want is for, because some people, like, you can't just say certain things and you have all of this knowledge on how to like,
that's
kind
what
of
I'm learning.
Through it.
Cause I'm a hey, full crash out. I don't listen. I used to be like, listen, even Kaii had to be like, yo, cause I'll be like, you feel me? But I had to recognize that sometimes, like, when you step into this, like, you can't do that. You feel me? And I done got my ass handed to me by the universe a couple times for like playing around, fucking around. You know what I mean? I fucked around and found out. You know what I mean? And that's how deep it is. And that's why I always tell people, man, learn self-awareness. Practice things within your own dimension and your own energy and your own, you know what I mean, and in your own being. Practice these things first. Learn what feels right to you. You know what I mean? So I don't want to be one of those people like, yeah, just jump out there and do this, or one of these people like, oh, you do, and it's like that worked for them. That don't mean it's gonna work for you. You know what I mean? What gravitate towards them may not gravitate towards you. You know what I mean? And I want to ask you this, Akiyla, because this is big for me. It's like when it comes to ancestry and, you know, these different energies that we dealing with, you know, the ones that may not have made it, that may be on a lower density, right? And I know you work in shamanism. How do you know to differentiate which ones to go back and heal, you know, and try to pull them out of that, and which ones not to? You feel what I'm saying? Because a lot of people that is like spiritually connected, you know, they want to go back and save their ancestors, but that ancestor may be too far gone. You know what I mean? To where it may drag you down with it. You feel me? So that's something I also wanted to ask you as well, because I know, like, well, for me, that's a very deep subject.
That's a good question. I would say even in being a shaman, there's different types of shamanism. So not all shamanism not all shamans are called to do soul retrieval. Just like there's not all shamans who are called to be at the quote unquote gates of hell, where they're working with the most chaotic beings. There's different types, you know. You got your elemental shamans, you got your plant medicine shamans, your animal spirit shamans, you know, the ones that do extraction. Like there's different calls of work. So it also depends on your own calling and what you have the capacity for, because some of this work could knock you out if it's not for you, because it's strong energetic work to do. And you can't bring the wounded mind of the martyr into this work, because like you said, there are some spirits out there that are not for you to go ahead and try to save. If they come to you for the cleansing, for the healing, then that is more so like them coming rather than you going to search for them, right? This you're going to chasing nobody into this, you know.
Exactly.
There's kind of, it's like it serves a purpose, because you got some people who become spiritual and they're evangelists, in the spiritual world. In this community, you know what I'm saying? You start learning all this stuff, and you're like, "Yo, everybody, like,
praise the Lord,
come learn about the divine." You know what I'm saying? They're gonna tell all the business. You know what I'm saying? So,
tell all the sheeps.
tell all.
Let me stop.
You know, so
everybody sit down around. Just sit down around the campfire.
Yeah, I realized that like the word has to match with the gnosis, right? And gnosis is like people have to experience God for themselves. I could tell you about God all I want, but if you ain't experienced it, you're not gonna really take it in and let it transform your life. And that is how you create the sheep in the flock, because it's like you telling them about an experience they haven't even had fully just yet, you know, and now it's like they're filtering their consciousness through somebody else, you know. So even as like doing shaman work, holding space, you know, creating certain containers, it's like creating the container for them that it's clear enough for them to receive, not like, let me show you what God can do for you.
Right.
Do any type of experience where it's like I'm showing people what God. I just know what type of conditions put your mind and your heart and your body at ease enough for you to be open to receive. And when you're open to receive, then you'll be able to know what you're truly guided towards. And that might say like you're guided towards to heal your bloodline. But some of y'all not everybody, because it sounds trendy and sounds cool. Like I'm the generational curse breaker. I heal my bloodline. And for some people that is true, but for some that would taint, delay, and distort your path, you know, because all of those heavy energies will hold you back from what you're here to do. So when you're in those spaces of complete stillness and really in motion with God, you'll know whether or not that's what you're here to do. But yes, it depends.
I got my curse breaker shirt on because guess what? Everybody in my family laugh at me every time I break something up. I'm the laughing stock of the cookouts, the family reunions, and all that. He's too good for us now. He's spiritual now. Oh, you can't tell him nothing. You hear me? I'm the black. I've been the black sheep for a while, but it's like, you know what I mean. When I started tapping into the knowledge and trying to get them to understand, man, listen, that's out the window. You hear me? Kick to the side. So. I get what you're saying. You know what I mean? And every day I'm working to be that. You feel what I'm saying? Not trying to intentionally, like you said, like go looking for anything, but when it's that time, they'll come to you and say, "Good job." You know what I mean? Mission complete. What's next? You know what I mean? Type shit. You know what I mean, Akiyla? But anything else? What? Anything else you want to ask, Kai?
No, I'm so glad you said that, because I feel like everyone wants to be the main. They want to have this main character kind of energy, and it's just not that. And it's literally that saying that says it's not on you, it's in you.
Yes.
And what that brings is, like I was saying earlier, it's like there's a level of conviction. It absorbs you. It takes you in. You don't have a choice. We don't go looking for the path. The path finds you, and it takes you even when you're not ready. And
that's
so
powerful. Yeah.
I love that you said that, because it's like we don't even, again, going back to we're in a society to where it's so ego driven. We want this boost. We want the next high. We want to feel important. We want to feel da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Ourselves in positions that are not even for us. Because I always say, like, there's protection in your own lane. There's divine protection in your own section. You know what I'm saying? When you're in the lane that you're supposed to be in, whether that's generational curse breaker, whether that's the oracle, the mystic, the shamanist, or whatever, that comes with a certain level of protection that you automatically naturally have, because this is who you're supposed. This is who you are.
Yes.
And so you find people who maybe even go towards tarot and get spooked out because all of these different spirits and whatever the case may be, they go run right back to Christianity. That was never your reading. who told you to pick up them cars? But no, I'm just kidding. But it was,
Listen, I see it. I see it a lot.
Real thing. It's a very real thing.
you know, so it's like we have to just have that respect for each individual's path, because our path is going to be different for everyone.
Yes.
And sometimes go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll wait.
You know, and sometimes that your path is completely different from majority of the people on this planet's path. And what I mean by that, you can have a whole section of oracles here, a whole section of but the way that you're going about it is going to be completely different. So until you learn to filter through your own ego, other than looking outside of you and what everyone else is doing, and be guided by your heart space and your inner being, until then, it's always going to be like that distorted perception of what you're supposed to be doing. It's a journey that you can't rush. And like you said, and just telling your whole story led you here. It wasn't something that, like you said at 3 years old, I'm like, oh, this is what I'm going to be when I grow up. You know, you had to go through the journey, which was for the character building, the skills sets, the skill setting, or whatever the case may be. It built you to be who you're supposed to be. The trials, the tribulation, the delays, the moments where things were completely sped up for you. All of those things were very important to manifest the version of you that's here today.
Yes, absolutely. I was gonna say, you know, when I was coming into it, like I said, I was like 18, so we didn't have all this social media where it's always in your face, but you know, something to see. It was like experiencing something I hadn't seen, and that made the experience a lot more genuine and for me to be present. You know, because it's like, I don't know why I'm doing this, and I see that nobody, other people aren't doing it. It's just a small little group of us, you know, and everybody's weirded out. But it's just like when you move that way and you're not so fixated on what you see, you become more clear how your path is supposed to look for you. Like taking a step back from social media is like critical. You know, because everything is not, you can't stay here for your spiritual impressions, because everything that you see is not for you. Some things might be posted and people are going to be like, you need to speak up for yourself, but really in reality, you're speaking too much, right? You learn to be quiet. You need to practice silence, you know what I'm saying? But if you see it is re-emphasizing, you know, confirming things that are illusionary inside of you. Like really taking a step back from all these things. Remember, I said I took those years and disconnected from a lot so I could be with myself, so that those things could be a lot more clear. And then the other thing I wanted to say too is being spiritual is not your vocation. A lot of times people come and become spiritual and they're like, okay, I'm about to be a healer, I'm about to be a sound therapist, I'm about to, you know, be an oracle, a mystic. Like, because you have divine feminine energy principle that resides in you, you will have healing abilities, you will have oracle abilities. The varying degree of that will be larger if it's a part of your path and calling, you know what I mean? But being spiritual means that you embody God's love and energy in your vessel, and that whatever vocation you do, it is infused in that. Like, everybody is not here to do oracle, mystic, shamanistic, you know, different types of work. Because then we would collapse as a society. And that's something I say all the time. Like, I see the communities that we building, but I don't know how to build no house. Okay, you can't depend on me to build a house. I don't even know how to you know, draw or anything. I don't know nothing about architecture.
You're right.
But a person that's embody God's consciousness and spiritual will create housing that's in tune with nature, They'll create architecture that is in tune with being able to receive, cosmic downloads. That's why we see like the pyramids, because it's a perfect vortex to receive, right? Those builders have a level of consciousness that shows the embodiment of spirituality within themselves. But they're not focused on let me hold sacred space. They're focused on let me create the buildings or the structures that are best fitting for the community so that we could thrive, So it's really also remembering that there's so many different ways that you can support the community and uplift humanity through the different gifts and skills and talents that you have. And because you're connected spiritually, because you have the oracle in you, the healer in you, the shaman in you, like all those different things, you can receive those impressions to be able to execute through the work that you do. But it's not going to all look the same.
Right.
And you will exhaust yourself. You will lose yourself trying to swap destinies with other people, everything that you see. And that's like something powerful. One of my sisters, Malika, said the whole swap destinies. I was like, well, I like that wording. And it's like being it's because what you see, you're trying to become, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, if you don't tap in here, you're going to be just regurgitating. And we have to be mindful that we come from a culture that programs you to regurgitate the information that you receive. And you become replicas, right? So it's like you're bringing that into spirituality and wondering like why everybody get into spirituality and everybody want to become a card reader, everybody want to be, but it's like that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to cleanse and clear yourself so you can, the gifts that you have can be executed at a higher vibrational level, but it's not going to look like everybody. You know what I'm saying? There's so many important parts that we need. All of that tribe we want to build, we can't build if we all reading.
Listen, Akiyla, I literally just posted something about this earlier. And I was saying the same thing, like a student like myself, I consider myself a student. I don't title myself as anything, right? Because I just know myself as a student of the Most High and the people that's around me, right? And I'm okay with being a role player. I don't have to be number one. I don't have to be a master at this. I don't have to be a guru at that. I'm okay with being a role player because I know who I am. And when I know who I am and God knows who I am, then I can play my role correctly without what Kaii say. Sometimes your direction is for your protection. That's why I rock with what she said. I gotta put that on the shirt or something because that was fire. But but you feel me? I agree with what y'all said so much because I just said something about it earlier. People, you don't have to be a master. You don't have to go challenge this person in a world where people can barely hold their attention span above 10 seconds. People barely read books, but they want to be the master at this and the guru at that and that, man. Be a student of the universe, right? And then if you're deemed as that by your peers, by the universe, by your ancestry, by the Most High, then you accept that title, right? But you ain't gotta blast it and boast it and be, you know what I mean? Because like Kaii said, you're distorting yourself, right? And that's a big lesson that I had to learn, Akiyla. Like, yo, slow down. Why are you in a rat race? Bro, take a break, bro. You okay? You're okay. You don't gotta compare.
100%.
You don't gotta rush. Your
100%.
journey is your journey. You'll be all right. You'll get there. You'll be able to help the collective. Because when I came into my knowledge, I was always in a rush. Like, I need to help this person. I need to add value to this. I need to boo boo boo. You know what I mean? But I was doing so little in so many places. I was spreading so thin that it doesn't equate to all the energy I could bring if I just focus all this energy here. You know what I mean? So I agree with what you're saying completely. But I see the retreats that you be doing on TikTok, and I checked out your website. So when it comes to the retreats, right? What role, if any role, does plant medicine play? Because people these days, I think it's that's not our era. You feel me? Like they just get high off of mushrooms and shit like that. But these is used for sacred practices. So does that play a role in your retreats and what you do? And if so, how does it?
Absolutely. I do plant medicine retreats. It's one specific one is called the shamanic way. And it's really designed for more advanced people who already like been on the path and been doing the work. Because I strongly feel that you don't want to go into certain levels of psychosis and then taking plant medicine. You don't want to become dependent upon it giving you revelation. There should be a level of cognition that you have already to be able to even properly digest what you experience in the medicine. And your level of consciousness kind of navigates what your experience will be. So I'm when I do the retreats, we meet like a month ahead on Zoom. I talk to everybody. I let them know what type of mushroom we're taking, what its effects can be, how they should eat, how they should be preparing their intentions, their mind, different things like that. I also let them know while you might be coming to take high doses, you get what I give you, because I'm going to sit with the medicine, and the medicine is going to tell me what it is that you should be taking at this time. So that you get what you need and you're not trying to surpass like certain things, because like even in my like shamanic state, a little bit of mushroom and I'm like, phew, we in a whole other interdimension. I don't need high doses to get there. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You ain't trying to ride on that high.
You don't
or
have
ride
a
on
lot.
that
I'm
ticket.
just trying to ride. It's just like a
Right.
now we're somewhere else, you know. So it's like it's an assistant, you know. It is not, you know, the main general. It's just an assistant to acceleration. Exactly. Because I don't believe in recreational use of it. Not now anyway. Like, you know, first coming in when I was younger, you know, 21, 20, you know, all of that. And it's like, as I'm like growing and learning and doing the mushrooms, and I'm like, I started to have reverence and respect. I'm like, oh my God, you're a whole being. You're a whole sentient being that I'm in relationship right now. And you got some things to share and talk to me about in your story. Like it's a whole nother experience when you start feeling it that way. And I'm like, oh, I can't just do mushrooms just all willy-nilly. It has to be in a very container. I gotta pray, I gotta cleanse myself, I gotta set the right containers, conditions, the music gotta be right. All things have to be at play. So that's even when I do the retreats. When I'm cleansing each person to do the medicine, I might take 5 to 7 minutes on each person. It don't matter if we got 10 people in there, we doing cleanses for an hour, but it's like you're gonna honor the mushroom, you're gonna honor yourself. I'm gonna honor your spirits, because when you take plant medicine, the wall and the veil is more thin. You're more vulnerable. And so like, all your stuff can come up, not just your psychological stuff, but your energetic stuff. And so let me honor your ancestors, your ancestors honor my ancestors, my spirits honor yours, you know, and then you might have some things that's not fit for the community to come right now. You know, it's like we could do that somewhere else, but in this space, it will be too much. So I might have to be more like, you know, like, especially if we have animal spirits with them. Like my animal spirit is going to come out like the wild energy to keep them that like, not here right now, you know, to create a certain container. When I'm at the property of the retreat, I'm creating a whole grid that's protected, you know, and creating a unified consciousness of where we're trying to navigate. Like we're creating a specific navigation. I tell everybody we're going to stay together for 3 hours. I know the mushroom going to want you to go somewhere else.
Because I was about to say, I know people excited. And I'm like, I know you be like, hey, you calm down. Hey, get back here.
When you establish the order, it's like everybody's trying to, it just naturally stays that way. So everybody stay with you for the few hours, you know. And I'm like, we're going to do a journey. We're going to guide. We're going to do it just how we remembered it to do it, in circle, you know, together. We're going to sing, we're going to chant, we're going to speak certain things into the atmosphere. And that takes it to a whole nother level. That way, like, you're not at a certain consciousness that would derail you from being a part of the sacred. You get what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Yeah.
So that is one of the type of retreats I do, but I also do retreats that's focused on like healing the wounded mind, dealing with your trauma and stuff like that, because that helps you to be able to receive the plant medicine more,
Right.
But sometimes people take the mushroom they receive and see all these things, but they can't connect their non-mushroom self to their mushroom self. The bridge
Facts.
so far apart or broken, or and so it's like, because you have to do that psychological alchemy to be able to bridge, those two versions of yourself together. So yeah.
So which one do you love doing more? Do you love working with the plant medicine? And I know you do sound wave therapy and sound baths and things of that nature. Which one do you love doing more? But I also wanted to ask, when it comes to the sound, right? When it comes to the sound, like, how important is it when you're doing these retreats that people come with either a neutral vibration or a higher vibration when it comes to your sensitivity, when it comes to those type of sound wave retreats and sound healing, retreats that you do?
Yeah. So earlier on, when I first got started, I focused more on like, okay, like, how's it supposed to look? When you look on the internet, it's like all these people in the space doing retreats, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you don't want like a lot of people not to show up, because then it might look like your retreat's not doing well, right? So it's like, you, as a quote unquote business owner, you go through all these thoughts, you know what I'm saying? But I learned through doing it multiple times, because it's not been like 6 years now. I've probably done at least 30 retreats or more. At
Wow. That's a
varying
big accomplishment. Hold up. That's a big accomplishment.
Thank you. And so I've done it, facilitated where it's at like 80 people, 50 people, all the way down to just 2 people doing private retreats. So I've gotten to see varying different dynamics, 20 people, 10 people, 6, like many different ways. And so what I've learned is it's more important for me to continue to hold the container of what is this mission about. When I stay focused on that, I don't focus on who comes. I know who comes is supposed to come.
Right.
And as long as I hold that, what I notice is people come from all different walks of life, but there's a group theme. I have not done a retreat yet that there's not a group theme. There's always a group. There's always a reason those souls came together at that time. Because they each have a medicine that they had to give to one another, and they each have stories that relatable to the other, that helps them in the healing process, that helps them see like, I'm not alone. And my platform is very like out of state based. So I really get to really anchor into seeing that, because it's like people are flying from California to New York, from New York, Arkansas, Chicago, to all these different places all around the nation, to Georgia at this specific time, right? So it's like it's organized in a way that it's like divine orchestration.
Yes.
I surrendered and submitted completely to that. And because I don't really think about whether somebody's frequency comes, it's like if they're matching what is needed, it's like who's supposed to be here will be here 100%. And I encourage, other people who are called to this work, who will do this work, to lean more into that understanding of it all. Don't focus on the numbers, because you could have 25 people and it be chaos. Like the numbers is not most important. What's most important is a cohesion. That you're not just drawing anybody to you, you're drawing your people to you.
Your people to you.
Exactly.
Who's aligned. Yeah.
The more aligned you are with yourself, the more even your quote unquote clients, students, participants, whatever those are of your field, even if it's past versions of yourself. Even, because there's a misconception that you only attract where you are. You attract all the layers of where you are. Because you are also a teacher and a student. and you also attract where you're going. You know what I'm saying? So that you can learn and teach. You know, we're always a student, as you're just saying before. And you will also attract your polar opposite, the people who are just as strong as you are in your light, that are as strong in their darkness. We are here to test you of your ability to stay unwavering in your own path. You know what I'm saying? So all of those things are into play as sitting in meditation about the people that are coming through for whatever retreat that is happening.
You dope as hell. Go ahead, Kai.
Let's say that.
For real. You dope as hell.
Thank you. It was something you were saying that I did want to share too. Also, once you've had a deep dive into yourself and you have like, okay, this is me. Like how I was telling you, I was like, this is the happiest I've ever been in my life. I know it makes me sad that people are feeling I'm a cult devil worshiper, but I feel happy and I have to do this. Once you got into that space and you feel anchored in that, then I also allow the community to tell you how they receive you. Not the ones that's projecting or bashing, but like have had real experience with you, because it's through that you kind of learn your position. I never called myself a master teacher until my multiple students kept saying that to me. Like, you're a master teacher. You're my master teacher. And I'm a hard head and I don't look to nobody. So if I say that, there's a part of me that's like, I don't want to say master teacher, but it was like, I let the community give me the label. Even with shamanism, it wasn't something I'm like, man, I don't want to be, what is it? What's the word? Where you're like appropriating, certain things. Like it's through the work that was shared, through also being in space with other shamans. Like I'm all the way in Ecuador in different spaces where they are also seeing that on my life. And that was like, okay, I can accept that what has been said to me, what I received, without ego, you know what I'm saying? With just like, okay, I humbly receive, because at first it's like, I don't know if I want to, but that's also my my wounded narrative, not wanting that attention or, having too much attention, feeling safe, because of certain things that have happened to me in my life. It's like attention feels uncomfortable. So once I kind of like healed through a lot of those things and accept things as they are, and I'm embodied in my consciousness, allowing your community to share with you how they receive you helps you to, stand fuller in your position.
I see you as that. Everything that you have said psychologically tonight has been on cue. Dope, fire. I see you as that, already. And I haven't even met you face to face. I've been to one of your retreats. But I already see you as that. Your energy, your essence, the way you speak, it uplifts, everything, you know what I mean, that comes into your aura. You be aura farming, yo.
That was a good one.
I like that. You did that one.
That was a good one. Oh man, that is beautiful. And I would say the same thing. And I feel like a lot of the time, again, like we were saying earlier, a lot of time when that's truly who you are, most of the time the individual is like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like I don't know that. You're doing a little too much, just whatever. But in reality, I would look at you as someone ascended master energy, right? Because I feel like an ascended master is someone who has fully understood and embodied the work that they're teaching. Doesn't mean that you're like, because we'll look at this as you're just like all of this, and really what it is, in my perspective, is someone who, and you're here, it's who you are too. Like, this is something that you built over a lifetime. So it's not just this specific lifetime that you're understanding this information. Like you said, it's a remembrance. So you're finishing work that you've already been doing for lifetimes, coming in and sealing it up, wrapping up the putting all the pieces together.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times, again, we kind of have a tendency to like, but usually those are the people,
Yeah.
the ones that are like get big headed, like, oh yeah, that's me,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
no one's been free for me. You know what I'm saying? Those are the ones you gotta watch out for.
Yeah. Willing to be modest and humble enough to question it. I even tell like a lot of my students and graduates, like imposter syndrome is okay. Like it can be debilitating if you do too much of it, but it can also just be an ego checker. You know what I'm saying? Making you check in, like, are you fully embodying what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Are you in the teachings, or are you just speaking? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I honored that coming up within you, and even when people were first saying it, at first I used to be like, I that's not what I desire to be called. And then over time, and I'm saying like a couple years, then I accepted that, because then that now became my embodiment phase, where it's like, okay, owning the position of where you are in this lifetime, and what you're here to do. And in stepping into that, it brings more conviction, but allow that space and time to give yourself time to mature and grow. Yeah. Even a lot of these teachings that we are sharing with people, it's like these people do this for years. For years, they are a disciple of their own master teacher, like 10, 20, 30 years before they reach to certain levels. But it's like, you can't just pick up a book, see a text, see a post, watch one video and think that you know all of this stuff. Like, even if you have a large reach, a large platform, have a bunch, like none of those things equate to what's going on internally.
Yes.
It puts you under a bigger microscope, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Because in order for you to understand the universe, is to understanding the universe is understanding self. And when you truly, because most of my knowledge came from my own internal work, that books confirmed for me later on. You know what I'm saying? So it was like I stepped into this arena just not wanting to be the version of myself that I was at that time. And like you were saying earlier, experiencing God, my first Kundalini awakening was under a full moon. And this is like in the very beginning of my journey, when I just like barely starting to listen to like subliminals and stuff like that, way before I started doing readings. But I did a spiritual bath, and I just was like, I sat there, I meditated, and I said, and at the time, like, God, Most High, I don't want to just know you. Right. This is not enough for me, because this is not enough. I want to experience you. Yes. And I literally said that night. I woke up at 3:33 in the morning, and I had a full-blown Kundalini experience. And that whole 24 hours shifted everything for me. And so when you say, like, it's that embodiment of in that experience that you have with the universe that seals the conviction that you have when you step into this work, if that makes sense. Yes. Because now you have the understanding that there's a oneness here between you and it. Yes. You and the universe, between you and God or the Most High or Yahweh or whatever it is to you. And that's when the journey begins.
Yes. When you're talking, it made me think about esoteric biblical teachings, where they talk about the devil being a part of the kingdom of heaven, and therefore knowing all information that God knows, but wanting to be like God or have the power of God. And there's many different layers to the story, but one of the esoteric layers of it is, as he becomes a fallen angel, what he does with that information is to bribe people into their temptations and their desires, their addictions, and different things like that. And that essentially brings them further from source. And so that also, with us as above, so below, within ourselves, we understand that we also have that version of ourselves that tries to split, that tries to fall. And it has information of God consciousness, and it might try to use that to serve its own agenda. And we have to be aware of when it's doing that so that we can bring it back to the light. So an example I can give is one of the wounds that I talk about is betrayal wound, and the betrayal wound has the wounded narrative that I can't trust people, that everybody will hurt me, everybody will do something that is deceiving, right? So anytime it's activated, the thoughts are going to be surfaced or extended from that. So if I experience, I worked through a betrayal wound the other, maybe like a few weeks ago, and part of it has came from just different things that I experienced, but also through losing one of my closest friends last year in a car accident. It's a lot of like, it brought up a lot of things inside of me. And so as I was having a moment, I realized something. I don't even remember what happened, y'all, but just for the sake of it, something happened and my betrayal wound was activated. And as soon as my betrayal wound was activated, I felt that my heart caved inside. I felt that my narrative was telling me that, like, who can I trust? All these new connections that I'm making, are they real? Do they genuinely like love me? But I'm very aware, so I know it's my wound talking. And so one of the things that I teach about mapping that is bringing it to truth. And so I had to bring myself and also reached out to somebody that I trust, because I talk about safety routes, creating a safety route system for yourself, knowing how to bring yourself back into safety and regulation. And so that was like doing it paired with somebody else and being able to verbally process. And I'm sharing it, and they're helping me. There's somebody that graduated from my course. But yeah, so I mapped my body. My body caved in, heart caved in. So that means my heart is closed. If my heart is closed, I'm not going to want it to connect. Right? My wound is telling me I can't trust. Therefore, I start questioning all my relationships.
Right.
And now I have to pair it with something that's true. I know that my relationships are real and genuine. I made them through discernment. I made them through intuition. They were godly guided. So many synchronicities happen for those relationships to have flourished. When I remember the truth, I could bring my wound to that truth, and it could transform or alchemicalize its way of thinking. And now I'm also breathing into my heart and releasing the heaviness from my heart, or from that betrayal will bring. And once my body has that breath, my heart no longer feels caved in. And once my body feel like that, now my mind starts thinking something more free, more of love, more of peace. Yeah. So I'm sharing all of that to say, no matter how much spiritually aligned or attuned or transformed or transcended you become, you still are in a human vehicle. Absolutely. And the human vehicle has, like I said earlier, daily maintenance that it needs to have, or weekly or monthly or whatever, where certain life experiences can trigger you into old states of being. Doesn't mean that you backtracked or you're lost or whatever. It means that you're still human. And because you're human, you have to address your human self, and that helps to keep the fallen angel from staying fallen.
Listen, you just confirmed something for me, because like like this has been showing up in my life more recently, right? Because it's just like you said, you get that feeling and you go through that process, right? Because I was the guy that's like, I love you, they betrayed. I love you. Oh, you did some fuck shit. Oh, I love you. You feel me? Like I was that guy that did not know boundaries. You feel me? It was no boundaries. For real. Like for real, I was that guy, right? So I had to kind of like dial that back. But when I dialed it back, I didn't have balance within it, right? So it built up resentment and anger and frustration within me, right? But like you said, once you get to that space where you feel it within your body, and you know for a fact that you have done enough work to differentiate, like you said, that feeling, like I get it in my gut. You know what I mean? Like I always feel a pit in my stomach when something ain't right. You know what I mean? I always feel a heavy pit in my stomach when I know that it's some deception going on or something isn't right. You know what I mean? Or like you said, that cave in your heart. I feel that when I know that, oh, okay, you kind of tricking yourself out of some shit. Like,
Yeah.
reevaluate what you thinking in this moment. You feel what I'm saying? So I just wanted to know that you gave me some confirmation on some things that I've been feeling and working on within myself. So big ups to you
I say,
for
because
sure.
And I would like to add to that too, because that confirms for me as well. Because I mean, I've been actively doing shadow work for since 2019, and like like I was saying, the so many layers to it, and then after you've gotten through the heart chakra piercing, because initially the heart, to me, like when you finally come into a space where you're like actively working on the heart chakra and it begins to open, it's not blissful a lot of the time because of because now that stored emotion that was basically like hardening it is starting to ripple off. And so it, to me, in the beginning of stages of my heart chakra opening, it felt like death. Because like all of these emotions that I kept stored and hidden and tucked away begin to flow out of me. And so after working through that and finally getting to a balanced space in my heart chakra, when I have those moments to where I do feel like it going like that flow and that peace and that abundance kind of it's like like you said, it caves in, and I hate it, and I love that you said that, because what I would do now is usually just kind of give myself some affirmations and like some basic ones to try to like to basically move that energy to bring me back to to the present moment. But to I guess that just kind of extends the work that I do when those moments do happen, because to be able to map it in that way, like you would say, and bring the fact in, plays a big role, because we psych ourselves out of a lot of things. It's so easy for us to say nobody loves me, nobody cares, everybody's against me, I'm by myself. This has happened so many times in my life, it's never going to change. And it takes that one moment and you can go off, and then you got to catch it before, like it's like a
immediately catch it immediately.
It's like a car going down the hill that has no brakes on it. If you don't hop out the car, you're gonna crash.
Yes.
The moment that you see that there's no brake to it, hop out, because but I love that you said that, because now I can integrate that into those moments to bring that truth. Because I always tell the people that I work with, like, when you have those moments, you have to fight for yourself, because your lower self and your higher self, they can be a team or they can't be. You know what I'm saying? When one gets weak, you gotta make sure that your higher self is strong enough to pull you up and out of it. And so I love that you said that, because that's brilliant.
Okay, good, thanks, sis. Good, thanks.
Man, listen,
I can't wait to use that one. Like, go into a dark place on purpose. Like, oh, it works. But oh man, this was such a lovely. There's so much wisdom, so many gems that you dropped today, and it's such an honor and a privilege to have you here and on, and to share your energy with us. Is there anything or last words that you would like to tell the collective? Any words of motivation or inspiration along the journey, because it's rough and tough.
For sure. Which is why I would say, remember the joy, remember to smile, remember to play. Find the things that fascinate you. Go out on the beach, go on the river, go in the woods. Do something different that you wouldn't normally do to find more expansive parts of yourself as you do this work. As you do this living, because it's really just living, or you have learned yourself, you're learning your own inner parameters. Something I was sharing with somebody yesterday, I'll give the example really quick. I have a Pythos plant, right? I'm busy, so Pythos work best for me, right?
Yep. They
It
grow on
probably
their
me
own. They
too.
don't need too much maintenance. They don't need a lot of light.
It can
Perfect.
go on about your business.
Any environment, they
Me
good.
person, right? Exactly. And I was like, what my parents have taught me, because I used to have some peace lilies. And the peace lilies require so much maintenance. They need a lot of light, they need water, they need attention. You know what I'm saying?
And
One
most
little
of them
day I
die
get to
off,
be
and
like
then you
this.
got to catch them in the springtime. You got to,
Over
yeah.
dramatic.
Exactly.
Girls are not supposed
Exactly.
to.
You know? And then it's like with the pythos, even as strong as they are, they can really grow very long if
Mhm.
you do tend to them, right? If you
Yeah.
don't really tend to them, they stay in the same size. And so it's like if we look at that as humans, right? We're all so different. We all require different conditions. You know, some of us are peace lilies and require more maintenance, have to be way more sensitive about our energy. Some of us are pythos where we can withstand so much pressure. But if we're not nurtured properly, we stay in the same spaces. You're not really growing and expanding.
Ooh, that's fire.
So really get to learn yourself in the way that you learn how to nurture you. You start to understand like the environments that help you to thrive, that help you stay blossoming and growing and expanding. Take care of yourself, like the things you love most in your life. You know, not everybody's a plant person. Some people have their plants by.
I'm a plant daddy. I got a money tree right behind me. I got my grow light on him.
Right.
Listen, he growing good over here. I'm trying to, you hear me? I got a snake plant over here.
And
Monsters in the crib.
that's like a pythos. Exactly.
Yeah.
And see that smile that you have talking about them. That's how we should be about ourselves. Like, oh my
Absolutely.
God, I got a Kaii. I got a you know what I'm saying? And it's so cute, you know, and it's so beautiful. It makes me happy. You know, like feel that way about yourself. Even no matter like what you've been through, it doesn't have to define who you are in your totality. Alchemy says that you can transmute so much, not out of illusion, but in truth. You know, and a lot of what most of us have been through is just to show the power of alchemy and transformation and transmutation. But yeah, that's the message that I was saying. Is just like also in all of this, remember the joy, because there's so much more joy than it is like ache.
Hold up. You got all this knowledge, and you ain't plugged nobody in yet. We need your TikTok, Instagram, website, Facebook, right here, right now. How did you forget that out of everything? Plug it in, Akiyla. Come on.
Thank you. People to remind me now. You all in there. Okay, so if led, I would love for you to just join the journey and following me on TikTok at I am Akiyla McQueen, Instagram Akiyla McQueen, and the purpose page is A Sacred Vibration. Also on Facebook as Akiyla McQueen, and website is www.supremeessencepfw.com.
Hey, we gotta do a part 2 to this. Kai.
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful to have been here with you all. You guys asked amazing questions. Everything is just like really flowing. I love it because it's like so much things here to share and give, and y'all ask questions that helped everything to really flow very well. So y'all are doing an amazing job. Love this platform. Love just the space that you created to feel safe, to feel open, to feel like home. We can laugh, we could get deep, you know what I'm saying? We could be silly, you know, we could get serious, nerdy, goofy. That's my type of vibe.
Yes. Got to.
I'm grateful. Thank you for the invitation and the permission to just share myself. I honor both of y'all.
We honor you. Like
You
you the dope, yo, you dope. You the dopest dope these viewers ever smoked right now. You know what I mean?
So funny.
For real. Listen. Between you and brother B Dale, man, listen. Y'all lit it up. Y'all did y'all thing, and it's very rare for me to say that because when you had me so sucked in, where I'm like, oh my God, like her mental works different. Like that's
Man.
power inside of her mind. Like I see it. You feel what I'm saying? When I can visualize it and see it, that's different. So I would love to come back and build with you on the quantum physics aspect and the psychological aspect in part two. So we can pick your brain a little bit deeper, you know?
I would love to have you on. Thank you.
Absolutely, you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to get another episode of Cosmic Konnections. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and the whole nine. You guys have a great night, and we shall see y'all next time.
Peace.
Thank you for your time.
Peace.
I've been getting money, I've been changing lives now. Conquer my depression, leveled up, and I'm alright now. Yeah.